a lot of times when you're going through the hurdles of entrepreneurship, you feel like maybe it's just me this is happening to. It's amazing that there's a food community that I have now become a part of where I can talk to entrepreneurs, we can come together. It is now like friendships that help you when you feel down, when you feel like you're alone, when you feel like, okay, how am I going to even survive this?
It's true what they say. It's lonely at the top, and people don't really know what you're going through, even the people closest to you. And so when you have that community, you can actually use them as a sounding board. And sometimes you get different perspectives on how to move forward. There's always a bottleneck you're trying to solve, even just listening, not necessarily having a solution.
Hi everyone, my name is David and I'm the Associate Director of Entrepreneurship with York University. Today we're here talking about business entrepreneurship hubs. This is the Richmond Hill Business Insider. Today I'm joined by Lola, the founder of It's Super, and Yanky, the co-founder of OpenHouseAi. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Why don't we jump into a little bit of introductions first? Lola, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is It's Super and how did you get started?
So my name is Lola Adeyemi. I am an immigrant to Canada from West Africa and Nigeria. And I started my business because as a new immigrant, I realized that there was a gap in the food industry for African-inspired products in mainstream grocery stores. As an African, I always had to go to the Afro-Caribbean store to be able to get finished products that will make my life easier, especially as a working career woman. And I thought, there's a gap and I want more people to enjoy and experience African cuisine just like the way they're able to experience Asian, Indian, and other ethnic products. So that's why I started It's Super, and it's been an interesting journey so far.
I'm sure, and we'll dig in a little bit into that as well. But next, I'll go over to Yanky. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Yanky, and OpenHouseAi.
Yeah, so I'm an advisor with YSpace now, really just giving back to the startup community that's helped me and my company along the way. I was the co-founder of OpenHouseAi. It's a tech startup in the AI and real estate space. Prior to that, I helped the fintech company in Toronto grow to the unicorn it is today. So, happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you both for joining us. One of the first questions we'll kind of dive into, and you each, come from a food business background and a tech business background. I think that's one of the uniqueness about this conversation we're going to have is that not only we're going to get the perspective of a tech company, but we're also going to get a perspective of a consumer packaged goods company. So to start us off, why don't you tell us, what drawn you to YSpace or joining even a business entrepreneurship hub and incubator to support your business? What were some of those factors that went into the decision saying, I think this is going to help me as I grow my business?
Well, for me in particular, as a first generation immigrant, I didn't have as much community. So for me, YSpace is kind of like an extended family. As you know, most people when they start a business, your first customers, not your best customers necessarily, are your family and friends. And so YSpace has been that community for me where I can meet other entrepreneurs and also have opportunities. For example, you guys have introduced me to opportunities for grants or opportunities to even register for other cohorts and, just different opportunities that I wouldn't have known or had access to. I think that is really important for any entrepreneur, but even more so myself where I don't have that many people that I can say is like, my uncle or my aunt or something is a VP in finance or something that can educate me on the Canadian rules of keeping your business afloat and all that. A lot of things that I've learned from being part of the cohort and even beyond as an alumni has been an amazing experience for me.
Thanks so much, Lola. And Yanky, I'm going to change the question a little bit up for you because I'd love to get the two perspectives, right? You joined us as a company, then you left your company to join our team. What made you go, let me join as a company? Well, first off, why did you do that? And then second off, why did you say, let me go join the team? And what did you see in that?
Yeah, so I joined YSpace initially because everyone who makes it doesn't do it alone. Very early on when we were starting our company, I met somebody when we were doing our validation interviews, and he told us his biggest regret was not telling people about what he did. So what he did was he just developed the product for 3 years in his basement, not tell anyone what he was doing, keeping it secret. And so, I learned from that, and I didn't want to make that mistake. So I reached out to the community, opened myself to learning about how to build a company, learning from those that have done it before me, and kind of keeping that ego in check, and just being an empty vessel and just taking in all the knowledge.
And what made you go from, I'm going to have my own company to now I'm going to go join a team and I want to help these companies?
Yeah, so I built my company to a certain point. Lots of growth during that really difficult COVID period as well. Helped my company raise the round of financing. They were in a great position to expand, and then I kind of took off to kind of take care of myself a little bit, and also I wanted to give back to the startup community, in any way I can, with all the lessons learned I've learned to help other startups grow along the way. So that's kind of like my incentive.
And you both touch on the word community, which I think is very important, right? As we get into this world where we always talk about, entrepreneurship can be very lonely, you do this alone, and there's all these hurdles, and, can people understand what you're going through? Because entrepreneurship has all these ups and downs. And you both mentioned community and the importance of that. I would just love to dig a little bit more into that. So what is so important about the community, and why is it so important to you personally and to your business? What makes it that kind of X factor for you, if you will, in terms of why you need to be a part of that?
Well, I would say that a lot of times when you're going through the hurdles of entrepreneurship, you feel like maybe it's just me this is happening to. And then when I talk to other people or entrepreneurs, and the great thing is that YSpace has a food and beverage cohort, so which is unique because most cohorts don't focus. It's nothing against them, but it's all focused on tech, right? Everybody's thinking about tech, but everybody needs to eat, right? Food is important. So it's amazing that there's a food community that I have now become a part of, where I can talk to entrepreneurs. We can come together, do a pop-up, do a giveaway, work together. Some of them have become, I believe, lifelong friends now based on this. So it's beyond CPG, it's beyond food. It is now like friendships that help you when you feel down, when you feel like you're alone, when you feel like, okay, how am I going to even survive this? For example, Brittany is somebody I call when I'm having panic. She's the founder of All Foods. And if I'm feeling a panic, I call her and say, okay, I feel like I'm going to quit. I can't do this anymore. She's like, Lola, I've been through that. Don't worry. And we figure it out together. We brainstorm. So even though food is so unique that there are some things that apply to entrepreneurship in general, but if you're not a food founder, you cannot relate. Having that community of not just entrepreneurs, but food founders kind of in the same or little above or just below me in my journey, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and I love that you said, so for those of you who don't know, Brittany's one of our alums, so I love that there's that connection where you met up with Brittany and you guys are having a conversation, and it's still going on, and Brittany's come back and mentored, and you've come back and talked to the next cohorts. I think that's a part of the community that I love seeing, is that when you go through it and you graduate, all of you come back and want to give back to the next group. And then we hope that continues, and that's what builds this, I think, community that you're talking about, where we're supporting one another. But Yanky, I'll go over to you as well. What is that X factor in terms of the community for you that makes it stand out for you?
Yeah, it's true what they say. It's lonely at the top, and people don't really know what you're going through, even the people closest to you. And so when you have that community and you have people that are in the trenches with you, maybe a little ahead, a little behind, you can actually use them as a sounding board. And sometimes you get different perspectives on how to move forward. There's always a bottleneck you're trying to solve, even just listening, not necessarily having a solution.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And something that, I'm curious to hear from the both of you a little bit is, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and sometimes, and this is something that we don't talk about a lot, I think, as founders, because we don't want the verbiage of us being imposters going out. But the more entrepreneurs we work with, the more we hear that there's a little bit of an imposter syndrome in the beginning, especially if you're a first-time founder, right? You're going on this journey for the first time being a founder. So to your point, fundraising, getting customers, growing a brand, doing it on your own. There's that imposter syndrome of, am I doing it right? Is this what I should be doing, right? How did you overcome that? And what were some of the tools and things that you kind of utilize to say, you know what, this is where I belong. I'm building a successful business. This is what I'm doing. What were some of those things that helped you along that?
If whatever you're doing doesn't scare you, maybe you're not doing the right thing. I think that fear never goes away. But fear is not a good thing. And so you have to continuously keep working on it. As long as you've checked and evaluated and done feasibility, which you guys help with to ensure that business is a feasible business, I think it's something that you just have to just stay positive, keep working at it. That imposter syndrome, though, is, in my case, for example, being a unique brand. There's so many sauces out there. There's lots of soups, but there's no African soups and sauces in mainstream stores like Sobeys and Whole Foods. For me, it feels like, does anybody really want this? Even though, yes, I get customer feedback, this is amazing and all that, but then I get a lot of pushback because there's no category for African foods. There's a lot of categories for other ethnic foods. but there has to be more African foods for it to be an identified category. Being unique is great, but it's also creates more need to educate and more need to let people, the category managers into stores, know that people want this. And so you start to second guess and think, okay, maybe I shouldn't be a pioneer in this. Like, maybe I should wait for somebody else to open the doors and then I can come in when it's already open. So there's a lot of pressure, and you feel like maybe you're not on the right path, and you second guess yourself a lot. But then, like I said, it comes back to community. It comes back to people telling you this is great. And I would say another community that I have with YSpace as well is LinkedIn, and I socialize on there and listen to other entrepreneur stories as well. That actually helps me kind of keep my head up.
I love that. The personal side as well as the business side, there's always that two sides. Yanky, we'll go over to you.
Yeah, you know what? Imposter syndrome is definitely part of the picture, especially early on. Especially when you're an introvert trying to pretend to be an extrovert sometimes.
We had this conversation, yes.
Yeah, and it's tough. But as I grew my business and my company, I changed the perspective a little bit. I see it now as, you're really just looking for an opportunity to serve. And that's when you have a business, right? And so when you're solving a problem for someone and you're getting that opportunity to serve, that's what you're going after. And once you have it, it feels really good. And really you're just serving your customers.
I love that, actually, the opportunity to serve. And I always go back to that that's part of my why. Like, I love being African so much, and I love being Canadian. And I always want to share that part of me with friends, with everyone. So is that serving, the passion to serve the community and beyond is what I really, really love.
No, and that's awesome. I totally agree. I think most business, I would say, you're always trying to serve something, right? Like even for us, we try to say we're trying to serve folks as well, and just making sure that we can do that. We're going to go a little bit of direction because Lola, you touched on your business a little bit. So we'll dive into that a little bit. Where's your business now, and how have you grown over the course of the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything else? What has growth been like for you? And I think in particular, I'd be curious to learn, you were talking about a little bit of being one of the pioneers in the category, right? There's not a lot of the African soups, and I've got to try it. Amazing, the pepper sauces and all that. And I've learned a lot. So, what was it like being the pioneer, and how has the business grown over the last couple of years?
Great point about starting a business just before the pandemic and also not having community at the time. So I started the brand. I didn't really know much. I didn't have connections to YSpace at the time. So I was just growing my brand. And obviously the food industry, it's a huge learning curve because I came from tech and I still am in tech. And then obviously by the time I just started and launched and then the pandemic started, there was no food demos. There was nothing happening. But I just kept going along because the feedback I was getting was great. By the time I started, I would, get orders, and I'm thinking, I launched in Sobeys and Whole Foods in 2020 when the pandemic was like in the heat of the pandemic. So I was worried. I'm like, who's going to buy this product? I can't do demos. I'm a new brand. I don't have that much marketing spend to make people realize, oh, this is the in thing. This is what you need to eat. This is, the best new thing on the market. But orders will keep coming in. So I'm like, who's buying this product? Like, how is this thing even moving along? So I think as a new food brand, people have to taste a product to really, if you don't have that much marketing spend, it's really about tasting the product. It's a sense. People use their senses to decide on buying that product. The design of my packaging was what helped me with my advertising. Like, people see it on the shelf and think, oh, what's this? It's, interesting, it's vibrant. And just spending as much as I can, just doing some marketing here and there. Right now, the strategy is there's some things that I've learned along the way that I'm working on to expand the brand so that we can go national. We've survived and thrived through the pandemic, so now it's time to scale. I didn't want to scale during the pandemic because I also wanted to learn and grow kind of little by little, make my mistakes that I've already would make. But now I'm ready to scale and go national with the brand.
Locally, I guess, how many stores are you in? Like, what type of stores? Like, where can they find It's Super?
So we're in Sobeys, select Sobeys stores in Ontario, and we're in Whole Foods. And then we're in like boutique kind of mom and pop stores like Urban Fresh Market in Oshawa, and like Fresh Fields downtown, like, those mom and pop grocers. So I would say we're in about 100 or so stores with the Sobeys and Whole Foods giving us a good number of those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. And
Thank
just
you.
driving through the pandemic, getting it to where it is now. That's awesome. And Yanky, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit about, where Open House, you mentioned during the pandemic, you did a raise and then you did all that and it got to a good position. Tell us about what that experience was like and, where is the business now and how has it grown?
Yeah, we continue to grow in the U.S. Most of our customers are U.S. customers. We've grown to the point where we have multiple products and solutions for the same customer base, really solving problems in that space. We believe that home builders, they're underserved and people don't think about them. And so we've come up with solutions to help them through, whether it be customer insights or operations. And so we're in that space and, we get to know it intimately and continue to help, that pool of customers, and we continue to grow.
Nice. And Lola, you touched on mentorship a little bit, and we haven't talked too much about that. I would love to get two different angles. So Lola, from you, what has the role of mentorship played, and and how do you find your mentors, and what does that look like? And then Yanky, as someone who's coming in and mentoring some of our early stage companies, what has that process been like for you, and what are you seeing, and what are the common feedback you would give as a mentor, to young startups? So maybe I'll switch it over. Yanky, I'll start with you this time. But seeing all these young companies, what is the feedback or what is the kind of advice you would give to them from a mentor perspective?
I learned very early, always try to be a mentor and get a mentor, right? No matter what stage you are in life. And so don't forget to pay it forward. And when you do that, when you're actually mentoring someone else, not only will you probably learn something from them, but you're taking what you've learned and trying to reiterate it. You're really testing if you've learned it yourself. And I think that's a good process in terms of your own growth. Building our startup, like we had mentors, we had an advisory board, really grateful for those people that helped us along the way, and really be at YSpace and doing the same thing for the next generation of younger companies.
It's awesome. And Lola, where do you find your mentors, and what type of roles have mentors played for you?
YSpace had, during the cohort that I took, had a really unique way of assigning mentors to the participants. And I had got an amazing mentor from the program. And mentors don't have to be somebody that knows every aspect of your business. You could have a mentor that is just focused on finance because they're really growing their business in a financial way, knowing how to source funds and all that. Or it could be somebody who is specifically in the food industry. I started going more on LinkedIn and realizing, wow, there are a lot of people who are in this industry. The mentors as well are sometimes people that I've never met. Podcasts. I listen to podcasts of stories of people who have grown their brands, and that inspires me. And I learn a lot from the ideas or ways that they overcame hurdles that I'm now facing. And so it could be a faceless mentor. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you can touch and feel or see.
And I love that. Faceless mentor. I've never heard that because you're right. Like there's so many things that you can read online. There's so many resources and tools online that you can learn from that's going to teach you so much about the different challenges that you're facing, or even hearing stories about others that can help you along your journey.
Yeah.
So that's awesome as well. The next thing I want to ask you both a little bit is, you mentioned LinkedIn and the role that it's played for you. So some of these social onlines and where you're finding mentors online, have you ever gotten a piece of advice that you're like, I don't know about that? And then, how do you tackle that? Because sometimes it's hard. It's hard to say no to people. So how do you kind of take on that challenge in itself?
If your mentor is also somebody who is a financier or an investor, then that's when there's a tough line where, it's like, how do you, it removes sometimes that independence. But, I haven't had a mentor who is also somebody who is an investor, aside from my husband. So I think for me, it hasn't been a situation that I've had to go through, but there have been situations where a mentor will give me advice and say, for example, don't go that route. You have to maybe do a certain thing because it's not going to work. But I've done my research and I know I'm willing to take the risk. I started this business. It was a risk to start it anyway. So why just do what everybody's doing because you feel it's going to work, or because it hasn't worked before? If I've done my research and I feel it's going to work, then I'll give it a shot, right? So I think sometimes mentors also come from a place of their own doubts, and then they pass it on to you because of their own experiences, and their experiences are not necessarily yours.
And their own bias.
Exactly, their own biases. That's the exact word. And you make mistakes. We all make mistakes, as long as you learn and grow from them.
Exactly, like the mistakes and the confidence that you have to say, I've done my work, let me try it. Right? The worst that can happen now is that, you learn and then you grow from it. You don't want that doubt of, well, what if I did that?
Exactly.
What if I did that? No, so that's a great point.
I would say get multiple perspectives, and you decide what the best course of action is, but everyone's just trying to help you in their own way. And then, like you said, just try it, learn from it, and move forward. But the important part is to execute something. Don't stay in one place. Right?
Yeah. Don't just stay in that little limbo of not doing anything.
Yeah.
No, and that's awesome. And just curious to know, what is your day-to-day like as a founder? Kind of what is that day-to-day? I think a lot of times we hear people wear multiple hats, and I'm sure that's exactly what's happening. But what is your day-to-day like? And I'm sure, Lola, it's probably a little bit different for you being in the CPG world versus Yanky being in tech world. So Lola, let's start with you. What's it like being a founder from a day-to-day perspective in the CPG space?
Previously, before I found a co-manufacturer, I would have days when I would be in the facility cooking and bottling and jarring and labeling. But now I have a co-manufacturer for my products. So my day-to-day is just figuring out ways to grow the brand, doing more research, figuring out how I can market the brand more. So now that markets and things are open, I'm signing up for a lot of flea markets, and getting the product in front of customers is another way to grow the brand and create a community, because a lot of times you need a community for your brand as well. So that's a lot of the day-to-day, sitting in front of my computer really. And then there's other days where I go to my storage, my warehouse, check on inventory, and it's always different on different days. But it's been fun not having to be in the kitchen. So how did they say it? Not working in my business, but working on my business? Yeah, so more on the operations and, figuring out how to expand better and grow.
So a little bit of marketing, a little bit of sales, inventory management. So
yes.
Still a little bit of everything.
Everything.
But at least
Chief Everything Officer.
That's the CEO. Yanky, how about you?
The day-to-day, pretty much, especially when you have most of your customers in the US, it's just back-to-back Zoom meetings all the time. And that could be tough. You get zoomed out and just meeting to meeting, you could also be switching hats all the time. That's something that you learn as an entrepreneur, to easily switch modes and get right into the meetings. But for us, it was, lots of Zoom meetings. And, during COVID lockdown, when we still were growing and building our team, I've never met most of our team that, they're all over the country and they're in different places, different time zones. So, just for us, it was a lot of Zoom meetings.
And how do you build a team culture when you don't meet most of them? Just curious to know, you mentioned a lot of teams are in the US, but how do you build a team culture with that?
It's not easy. Culture is very important, and it's very important to kind of set the tone, so to speak, early on in the company. It also speaks to the founders and the company's values, right? And when you're hiring, you're bringing people on the team, you want people to be on that same page with you. And so that's, with technology, it makes it a lot easier to kind of just get on a call. But it's those touch points where you have regular ones, you have ad hoc ones, but it's being on the same page moving forward and having that structure in there to set up, your employees for success.
And if I were just to ask you, what's one piece of advice you have for a tech entrepreneur and for a food entrepreneur, I presume very different, what would that piece of advice be for someone who's just starting off?
I would say this is for all entrepreneurs, but don't neglect the mental health part of things. I had to learn that lesson along my way as well, right? You got to take care of yourself, both sleep wise, eating wise. Take care of yourself so that your company can be healthy. And, it's not always easy to do that, but, play the long game and take care of yourself.
I think that's a great point, because when you start, you're just all about the business, growing it, and that's all you do, sleep, eat, and drink that business. But I would say that one thing you want to do is start small. Don't think about all other brands, oh my God, they're killing it, they're doing this money, millions in sales and everything, and compare yourself to others. Start small. You will make mistakes. But if you make mistakes with just, a few stores, if your packaging, do you know how many times I'm going to change my packaging again, right?
Are you?
Yeah, because I want to do it. it's, you know, continuous iteration and changes that come because the customers give you feedback, the community gives you feedback. And so you might make changes. So it's easier to make changes on a small scale and perfect your business and your food brand and then go from there. So I would say don't be afraid to start small and dream big.
No, that's awesome. And one thing that just came to mind is just talking about your branding and what you've done with It's Super. One thing I always found was super unique was, and I don't know if you're still doing this, on social, I find that every so often you put music out, like Afrobeat music. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? Like putting music as a part of your brand? Like where did that idea come from?
As Africans, anytime we're eating, there's music involved. Like a party without music and without Afrobeats is like, it's not complete. So whether it's a house party, anything, we love to dance, we love music. And when you're happy, it's a happy dance with food. And so I wanted to also not just introduce people to African food, but African music, because that's also something that I feel like I'm so proud of being African and being Nigerian. And so I wanted to let people know when you're making this recipe, this is a beat you can listen to while you're, you know, cooking something up in the kitchen. So, and then introduce people to a new sound, just as I am doing with the food.
I always thought that was super unique. Like I would scroll through, I'm like, oh, what's this? And every time from me, I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's super unique. You know, as we start to wrap things up, Lola, where can people find you? Are you online? Are you mainly in stores? If people want to, you know, try the product, you know, what are the different lines of product? Even tell us a little bit about what are the products that you have on the market.
So yes, you can find us online at itsuper.com, and we're on Instagram at itsuper, and ITSSOUPER. We're available Whole Foods, Sobeys. Like I said, you can check our website to find locations or purchase online on our e-commerce store. So we have soups and we have sauces. We have Moroccan chicken and chickpea soup, chili soup, and then vegan carrot soup. And all our sauces are vegan as well. And they're all African products, you know, pepper sauces, variation of pepper sauces, and our peri-peri, which is a fan favorite. It's not your average peri-peri. Forget Nando's.
It is not.
Come try ours.
Yeah, I remember the chicken. The chicken is my favorite. And Yanky, where can people find more about OpenHouseAi and what you guys are doing, whether they're in the US or here in Canada?
Yeah, so you can check us out on our website at openhouse.ai. And so, you know, if you're a home builder that wants to, you know, expand your company and leverage technology to grow your company, that's when you reach out to us and we'll help you do that.
Awesome. And if you want to learn more about YSpace, you can visit us at yspace.yorku.ca, where all of our programs, we have 14 different programs. As Lola mentioned, we do food and beverage. We have a women entrepreneurship program called Ella. We have a Black Entrepreneurship program called the Black Entrepreneurship Alliance. And of course, we have our technology portfolio as well. Check us out. We have programs running year round. And if you don't know which one to join, check out the idea consultations. We're more than do a consult to help you figure out what is the right program for your journey.